Hey guys, all right. So in this video here today, I'll be breaking down the buy that I took on Monday, the 2nd on GU, which did end up being a break even that ran to my take profit after being taken out at break even. Unfortunate outcome, but we can't control obviously anything on that side of things. All we can do is control our input. So I will start off from the daily time frame. There's our weekly break there. Previous daily break, and then our weekly slash daily break, obviously up the top up here. So we were at a new weekly daily 4 hour, 1 hour, 15-minute high coming into the week. However, leading into the session, we did break what was our external 15-minute low, giving us our first bearish break after being bullish on every single time frame coming into the session and coming into the week. So really strong inducement as we've still got a lot of buying pressure behind the market. And this sweep here, which is that 15-minute break, which I'll show in a moment, could have very well been an inducement to continue price higher, treating this as retest of that 15-minute, of that weekly external break. So dropping down to the hourly. This was that external 15-minute range that I was speaking about here. Quite a slow retracement down to it as well. Did generate a lot of liquidity. Was showing some signs of one, either respecting this range, or two, this being an inducement to push higher to target that liquidity to follow with that very, very clear bullish momentum that we had. So that's that 15-minute external break just there. Now, understanding that we are at the top of a weekly 4 hour, daily 1 hour, and we were at a 15-minute external high coming into the week, and that this is our first break to the downside, we know that this can be a break of structure starting that complex pullback inside of at least that 4 hour leg that we've got just there. First break, yet to come into any sort of decisional or extreme areas. So this can very well be the start of that complex pullback. Now, being able to identify whether this is the start of the complex pullback or whether it is an inducement all depends on what happens after we take that bit of structure. So what we had straight away was we have the break, and then immediately we get the retracement, generate some liquidity, now break into the downside again. So the fact that we generated this retest here of that break, given the context of how much further price is due to retrace, is a very, very good sign of price actually respecting this as a break of structure and not treating it as an inducement. However, given the bullish momentum, that doesn't mean that we can't buy. Now, one of the reasons I was looking for a buy off the sweep of this low, although this little pullback here actually confirmed this as a break, is because it was actually classified as a medium inducement for me, even though it's Asia low. Now, the reason it classified as a medium inducement for me is it's a range that's relevant to the 15-minute time frame, and we broke a very small 15-minute internal high. So from a smart money concepts perspective and from a general structure traders perspective, this would now be classified as a new range. So taking out this low, we'll be taking out 15-minute traders. So we've got that inducement there, which puts us in a really good spot. We've now got people selling inside this leg, taking up buyers. So we've generated liquidity, we've swept liquidity, and we've now obviously, with all the sellers brought inside of here, the retest is now activated. So we know this area should be getting swept, which makes obviously works with the outlook of this potentially starting that complex pullback. Now, the other side of this of what we have here is we have a decisional area sitting just above that retest, which is this point. So that area itself is the demand to supply area. I believe it actually is the hourly point that it mitigated. Might have been 2 hour point. Yeah, cool. The whole area there is probably a really nice 4 hour point. It sits there. Yep, cool. Beautiful. The very nice 4 hour area that price had come into. It had induced a high and then led to the break of the low. So this point here was the last area that actually caused for price to push through. Now I did have this as more of a decisional area, given that this point here started that run. However, this is the last point. So both this and this supply both classify as decisional areas. So what we've got is a liquidity target, we've got a mitigation target, we've got sellers brought into the market through trend line breaking. Sorry, we've got a target of sellers in here that we can target. We've got sellers brought in from the retest. We've got lots of liquidity to target. We've got a structure point to be able to target, and we've brought taken out early buyers. So lots of liquidity generated, lots of liquidity swept. Cool. All right. Stepping into the 1 minute time frame, not looking to do anything here, but this is more so just going to confirm and show some additional signs of price respecting this low and buyers starting to regain control. So initially, very sharp, quick inducement. This is how we want to see inducements formed, is that very sharp, quick move straight into a breaker structure, immediately retested. It did actually mitigate a decisional area. It left an extreme. However, you can also view this as retest. We then get the sweep of that retest, mitigation of extreme. So we've now formed an extreme, which took liquidity, also took internal liquidity here. And we've now formed a decisional area here. Cool. Breaking that high. So now we've got break, sellers induced, sellers taken out, confirmed buyers in control. Bearish inducement, break, bearish inducement, break. We're now forming bullish price action, confirming buyers. Going back up to the 5 minute, we can see we're forming really nice structure. And we're coming into what we can know is a smart money trap area. Now, I just worked with the whole push as my smart money area. Given that there wasn't anything overly clear inside of here, you're more than welcome to look at using that whole area like that, covering the imbalance, but I just simplified it to the last bullish 15-minute candle that created that run. That's just something you'll build through eye of being able to identify where the actual area is when you do have choppy areas like that. Cool. All right. Now, looking at it on the 5 minute, all we need to see from here, you actually are valid to set that limit. If you're going to trade off the 5 minute pre-session, that is a valid limit in itself. You do have to cover the extreme of the range, as it's very, very valid for price to come down, induce the decisional, come into this extreme area, reject, and push from there. So if you are going to set that limit, you have to set it like that. You can't set it just like that. Very easy to be induced. Cool. Now, guys in the premium group, we'll go down to the 1 minute here and I'll get this actual entry broken down. Sweet. All right. So obviously, like I was saying, at this point here, we are break even. I was actually covering commissions by this point as well, by the time I've taken that high. So what was my stop? 4.6 plus 3, plus 7. So 5, yeah, what's that? 5.3. So my stop loss is there at 5.3 to cover comms just underneath these wicks here. Knowing that at this point very well can push price down, but this point here, we've swept an internal decisional, we've swept partly our extreme area. We are bearish. This point itself did take liquidity, and we have actually started to generate liquidity. So this can start to be classified as a valid range. So we can't hold our break even, hoping that price isn't going to come down and want to induce this supply to demand area before continuing bullish from there. Can't hope for that. We have to work with what structure tells us. And structure is telling us now at this point, we've taken a lot of liquidity. We've got buyers brought in, got trend line generated. We could go bearish. Cool. Let me just actually fix this up so I can use my replay tool properly. Cool. All right. Fortunately, pipped out at break even there. And at that point, we did run to our take profit. Sweet. All right. So, unfortunate outcome. Obviously, we've been taking that break even and then having price push straight through the take profit area. Nothing we can do about it. Valid setup. That is just part of the risk that, excuse me, is part of the risk that you take with a setup like this that has really good potential, but because you are starting to go against some momentum, you do have high probability of getting taken out at break even because it will generate liquidity for it to be able to target when it gets to its next valid area to reverse from, which we'll see price do here. So we've now targeted all that liquidity and pushed down. So we can see that not being greedy on where we're targeting, knowing, okay, cool, this is an area that price can very well reverse from. Let's make sure to take our profit there. We got our 1 to 3 to that high. We'll to that mitigation, so we're safe to do so. Yes, we can look at this from a perspective of, oh, but price can get all the way up here. That would be a good completion of structure cycle because it's quite a deep retracement itself from there. Let's hope that it gets there, and let's now target this for a 1 to whatever that would be, 1 to 10 or 1 to 11 just about. No point doing that. This price can reverse from here. It'd be silly to leave 3R on the table, have price come down, induce trend line, potentially even mitigate that extreme area, and then push up from there. You've now wasted 3R, hoping that this area wasn't going to do anything. When from an analysis perspective, it very well can. You have a medium inducement into a valid supply area. So good trade, good targets. I hope you've all learned something from this. Um, yeah, I don't want to call it a simple trade, but trades are simple when you start to just build a system, repeat the system, and learn to just follow a consecutive process week in, week out, day in, day out. So, beautiful trade, happy with it. We can't control the outcome. All we can do is control our input as a trader. Input was great, trade management was great. Unfortunately, just didn't get the outcome we're looking for on this one. Let me know if you got any questions. Those of you watching this on YouTube, you will see a photo in the description from my MetaTrader just for the proof that I was actually in this setup and got taken out at break even. Fire away with the questions on the YouTube and inside, obviously, premium members on the Discord. We'll go through it on the Sunday call as well. So if you have any questions there, I can go through and answer them for you live. But other than that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon.